everyone, and welcome to 56th session of Beyond Research. Today, we are delighted to have Mr. Vibhava Shukla as our distinguished speaker. Mr. Shukla is a highly experienced professional in the biologics and biosimilars industry with nearly 15 years of expertise. He is currently the director and head of DS MSAT at Alvotech in Iceland, where he leads technology transfer, process validation, and manufacturing support for complex biologics. Mr. Shukla be- began his career as an R&D scientist and has since worked across multiple roles, including pilot lab management and MSAT leadership. His work spans peptides, microbial system, and monoclonal antibodies, and he holds three process patents. He is also a recognized subject matter expert for global regulatory bodies like the FDA, EMA, and PMA. A strong advocate of team building and mentoring, Mr. Shukla is committed to ensuring the delivery of high quality, accessible medicines to patients worldwide. Please join me in warmly welcoming Mr. Vibhava Shukla.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you for such a nice introduction. I feel honored. And good afternoon to everyone, and good evening. I guess in India it's a late evening hours. For us here in Iceland, it is 12:30 afternoon. So thank you everyone for your time. And as I say, it's a privilege to be the part of this session and talk about a few of my experiences and about the biosimilar drugs, why this biosimilar is making so much of good noise in the market and across the global arena that we'll try to understand from this presentation. So please allow me to present my slide, and if someone can confirm if slides are visible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. So I will start. So as you all know, I'm sure the participants are the undergraduate students. So I'm sure you must have known the term biosimilars or biologics. So biosimilar is a type of biologic medical product that is highly similar to an already approved original product, which we call it as a reference product. And these are used to treat various diseases and conditions, be it autoimmune diseases or rheumatoid arthritis or any anti-cancer drugs. So nowadays, a lot of biosimilar companies which are into the market from Europe, from US, from India, they are highly invested into this particular development of the biosimilar drugs. This is not only good for them from the business point of view, but also from the perspective that this is also going to cure and treat a lot of populations which are having some kind of serious diseases. So essentially the biosimilars, they are made from living organisms. As we all know, they are cells or microorganisms. They have no clinically meaningful differences in terms of safety, efficacy, purity, potency when it compares to the reference product. So we call it as a biosimilar because it's kind of carbon copy of the reference product, which has already been launched into the market. Earlier, the reference product or innovators were having the monopoly over the market, but once their patent expires, the other companies who are also working on the same product, so-called biosimilars, have good opportunity to get an entry into the market. And these are often affordable alternatives to expensive biologics drugs. So that's the reason the biosimilars are quite cheaper compared to the innovators. If you look into the global market share of the biosimilars, right now the market share is quite increasing. The market size, as per the trend from 2025, it's close to $42 billion US dollars, and projected size in by 2030, which means in the next 5 years, this will jump to almost $100 billion, or maybe to be precise, 98 or $97 billion US dollars. If you look into the map here, if I can just present my screen here with map, so you can see our country, India itself, comes into the emerging markets, which is a medium, but of course it is gaining a lot of tractions over the years. And also the other countries which are having certain kind of advantages with respect to the regulatory approvals and other aspects. So this map exactly encompasses the entire the global map, where exactly the biosimilars are making a very good footprint, not with respect to the companies who are working on those biosimilars, but also the market shares, where exactly these biosimilars are being exported. If you look into the regional insights, the Europe still holds the major pie, a major chunk of the market share, which is close to 37%. But Asia Pacific markets are also quite catching up very fast with respect to the manufacturing hubs we are having in India, China, South Korea. We are having close to 24%. And North America is gaining momentum because of the support from the FDA and the rising healthcare cost. So key market players when it comes to producing or manufacturing are selling the biosimilars. These are just few, but the list is endless, I believe. So the to name a few, like Samsung Biosips, Biocon Biologics in India, in Celltrion we are having from South Korea, Sandoz, Hizun Pharma from China, Amgen from US, Pfizer from US, Keros Biosciences from US, Genentech, of course, Alvotech, of course, from European side, and the list are kind of endless. So we are having a lot of companies who are now coming to the foray. There are a lot of companies who have already established a good kind of name in the market, and they are supplying the product to the market with some approvals in place. So these are the list of key biosimilar products. As you can see in the last column in this table, it is all about how many products they have approved in the market, but it's not exactly the list, which is the only product, but is just example of like few key products which they have already produced in the market. So when it comes to so let's try to understand how the biosimilar drugs business revolves around how we develop the biosimilar drugs in industry, because we know theoretical aspect of how the things are being done, but let's try to understand from the industry perspective how the development happens. So this is a kind of, I would say, very basic, but it's very essential life cycle of the biosimilar drugs. So we start with research and development. We identify the drug targets. We identify which area we should work on. What should be our potential drug target? What is the clinical development? How to go about it? Because you know that we have to go through multiple phases of clinical development trials. We have to go for the regulatory evaluation. Then we try to launch in the manufacturing just to understand how the GMP scale up will happen. So you so-called call it as a scale up in the manufacturing. Then you go for the post-marketing surveillance, and then we maintain the regulatory approvals and the lifecycle management go on. So if you try to look into the stages like research and development and then clinical development, then you go for the regulatory evaluation, then we go for the manufacturing of those products, we perform the process validations, then we apply for the regulatory filing, so-called we call it as a BLA for the FDA, and of course for the other markets we have different terms. We then go for the market authorization. Then we go for the post-marketing surveillance, and the lifecycle management happens, which is called as late cycle management. So this is typically the life cycle of entire, I mean, any particular biosimilar drugs. So if I just break down the each phases, so the discovery and preclinical development, when I say it is more about the goal, like you identify and validate a biological candidate, because you first need to know like whether whatever the drug candidate you are finalizing, what it is market capability, whether it is right candidate to be launched into the market, because you are going to invest a lot of money. And this is not a small like time duration. You need to invest around 7, 8, 9, 10 years of time from the inception of the project until the launch. So companies invest a lot of money, resources, manpower, timing. So everything goes into the making of the final successful launch. But before that, actually, you need to ensure that whatever the selections or choices you are making, those are the right choices. Because once you start the project, you probably should not back out because you have invested a lot of money. So you identify the targets, then you go into the lead discovery, which is nothing but you generate and screen the biological candidates. Like it should be monoclonal antibodies. Sometimes it can be recombinant proteins. It can be gene therapy. As nowadays you can see, vaccines are coming, monoclonal antibodies are coming. So like that, actually, we try to decide like in which area we should invest in. Then we start with preclinical studies. So typically we perform the PK and PD studies, pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic studies, in vitro in animal models, and then we go for the process development just to understand how the process will look like when you launch this process into the manufacturing. So you start with a so-called small scale, very small columns, very small bioreactors, and then you try to understand how the process development should happen. In parallel, also, you try to understand how to enable the studies and regulatory filing. So you prepare for the human clinical trials. As I mentioned, the phase trials are happening in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Toxicological studies you performed, then you go into the CMC part of it, which is nothing but chemistry, manufacturing controls. So you develop the scalable manufacturing process and all the analytical methods through which you are going to detect your process performance and product quality. And then you go into your submission phases, like, as I mentioned, there are different agencies like FDA, EMA, TGA Australia, PMDA Japan, and so on and so forth. So further regulatory review and approval. So you file for the submissions. Once you have the validation data package, then you go into regulatory review, and then you finally get approval. And then once you get approval, then you go into launch and commercialization. So this is nothing but your manufacturing scale up. You look into it. You look into the process fit. You try to ensure that whatever manufacturing scale like sizes you are having, this is good enough to supply to and cater to the market in the long terms. You also try to understand the market access, pricing, how the pricing should happen, how you should negotiate, or how you should fare compared with other competitors in the market. Your medical affairs and education teams should be very strong. Your pharmacovigilance, it has to happen throughout the life cycle of the drugs. And then also you go further surveillance, like how the drug is doing in the market when the patients are consuming the same. So estimated timelines. For each and every step, if I try to break this down further, as I mentioned, that this takes quite a lengthier time to get into the market. So discovery and preclinical start takes around 2 to 4 years. IND filing takes around, or maybe studies rather, takes around 1 to 2 years. You go for clinical development, which takes around 5 to 7 years, which because it involves a lot of phase 1 trials, phase 2 trials. You go to regulatory review cycles, which is again taking around 1 to 2 years, and then launch and commercialization. So in this, you are of course you are going for the manufacturing runs. You try to generate more number of batches to gain more confidence. Then you go into the process validation cycle, where you try to show that actually whatever the batches you are generating at scale, they are exactly the true replica of your potential commercial batches. So total time it takes around 8 to 15 years. That's why I told that it's quite a lengthy time, and you have to get invested. You have to be, I mean, everyone is emotionally every way they are invested to ensure that actually the project with which they are working on this, I mean, it sees the market launch. It's not like it is just kind of abruptly terminated. So if I go into the further breakdown of how the development happens, so it is so-called upstream development, downstream development, and DP development. So we normally categorize the biosimilar product development in three different compartments. The first one is upstream development, which is nothing but your cell line development. You develop on the media and feed optimizations. You are developing on the bioreactor process development, scale up, and tech transfers. Similarly, for the downstream, you go into chromatography, viral inactivation, nanofiltration, UFDF formulations, and maybe few more steps in the downstream as applicable. For the DP development, when you say DP, it is nothing but the deep drug product, which is converted from drug substance, which is called DS. And then we try to understand what should be our final packaging, whether it should be pre-filled syringes or it should be vials. Then we perform the mixing and compounding studies. We perform the media fill, smoke studies, transport validations. And this is just a list of very small chunk of what we do. In fact, actually, the list is endless again. So a lot of things are being taken care at each and every step of process. But in the core, the goal is to ensure that whatever you are developing, it is having no adverse impact on the patient safety. So patient safety is in the core of anything what we are doing as a biologics or biosimilar industry. Let's look into the regulatory expectations. As I talked about, there are a lot of like regulatory watchdogs globally. To name a few is European Medicine Agencies, which is called as so-called EMA in the short form. We have Food and Drug Administration from FDA. We have Medicines and Healthcare Product Regulatory Agency from UK. We have Therapeutic Goods Administration, TG Australia. We have Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Agency, PMDA from Japan, and our own country Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which is called as CDSCO. So all these watchdogs or regulatory agencies are here to ensure that when we are going to go for the filing or submission or application of this kind of new drug product or biologics, before we go into the launch mode, they ensure that they come to the manufacturing sites, they perform their audit to ensure that everything is in place. compliances are ensured. There are no any deviations. There are no any regulation kind of breach. So they want to ensure that actually before they allow this product to be launched or commercialized in their own market, for example, in US, so-called FDA or EMA for Europe, they want to ensure that everything is well taken care of. And that's where the purpose of audit comes in. So when you are done with your data packages, you invite these auditors to come to your site, to your manufacturing site, and perform the audits. This audit may happen for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, depends on the extent of what information they want to ensure. So this is one of the most kind of the I would say most intensive process which has to happen, and that's the reason the companies has to be very careful when they start the development process. They have to ensure that everything is well taken care of, because if there are new observations or demands are coming from these regulatory agencies, then probably your timelines for the potential launch to the market is delayed. So that's where it's kind of a well amalgamated thought process where the different departments, different teams from a company kicks in. For example, you have a manufacturing, you have quality assurance, a QA, QC, MSAT department, R&D, clinical department, regulatory agency, regulatory departments. So a lot of departments are coming to the picture, and they collaborate with each other to ensure that we are making a compelling data package so that there are no observations from these kind of regulatory agencies. So I'd like to touch base a bit about the process validation. So as I told that once you start your process, develop the process at small scale, then it is time for you to test how it is behaving at bigger scale. Because sometimes you would have seen, or maybe you would have read the papers, that you develop a good scaled out model process, but when you are going to make a transition into the manufacturing scales, the process is not running smooth, or maybe there are some hiccups, or there are some challenges with respect to the process performance or the quality. So that's where we have to be very careful. Like when we are developing or designing any process, this should be well calibrated, well developed, and well understood. So when you start the process in manufacturing, we call it as a GMP process, but we go further into the commercialization aspect of it, and then there we try to understand like how the things are moving at manufacturing scale. So we call it as a process validation, and that's where the intricate things come into the picture. You try to have a design space. You try to develop your model. You try to ensure that your critical quality attributes, so-called CQAs, are well taken care of, and then we try to ensure that everything is falling in place. So we call it as a process validation, and this is a place where we try to ensure that so these process validation called pro-commercial batches, which means these batches are true representative or replica of the potential commercial batches. And we need to ensure that our process validation is it's quite robust. And that's where the FDAs or any regulatory agencies look into very, very carefully and closely. So this is the process design, if you can see here. So we start with the process design. It is called as phase one. Then we go into the process qualification, which is called as PPQ or process validation. Just now we discussed about it. And then we go into the continuous process verifications. So it's not only about you develop the process and prove that your 3 batches or 5 batches are running fine, but also you have to commit that you will try to kind of monitor the process until the life cycle of this product is over. So this is called as continuous process verification, and we go into statistical data interpretation to ensure that our data is trending within the control limits. So if I just try to drill it down further, just key prerequisites for the process validation is your analytical method should be ready, your process should be ready, you have a defined quality target, you have a rationale for the number of PPQ batches, you have defined quality target, facility readiness, you have validated cleaning methods, and then you start with the process design. You have a process description document so-called ready, you have quality risk analysis ready, you have your validation master plan ready, you have the PPQ protocols, which is nothing but the validation protocols. You are ready for the validation, and then you go into full-fledged validation plan. So once you are done with the validation, you try to make a so-called validation report. And this is the report which is kind of brought to the attention of all the regulatory agencies to let them know that actually we have done the validation and we are quite successful in that. So general expectations at the end of process validation is the purpose of process validation is ultimately to demonstrate that with a high degree of assurance, we try to ensure that process is reproducible. This is a process which will be logged, and this is a process which will be used for the potential commercial supply post launch. All the data packages such as PPQ report, product hold time, media buffer hold times, and other aspect of CMC packages are ready. Facility and bioburden controls, because it is all about the patient safety. So you cannot compromise on the level of bioburdens, BT or endotoxins. Everything should be well controlled and demonstrated with proven consistency. Your recipes, for example, you are running so many recipes into manufacturing. So your process recipes, cleaning validation, everything is well documented and consistent. And all the process parameters to be well within the defined control limits. So nowadays, as companies are moving from the very conservative approach to embrace the new technologies and the new things, so that's where the concept of PAT and QBD comes in. So PAT is nothing but process analytical tools. These are nothing but the online process analytical tools are the like softwares which try to ensure that you are having the detectability of all the issues online. And if you want to do any course corrections, there is a feedback control so that your process can work within the design study space. So this is called the improved process understanding via PAT approach. And the same thing goes for the QBD, which is nothing but quality by design. So nowadays companies are trying to align seamlessly with PAT and with the quality by design principles. So when you say the quality by design, it is nothing but it emphasizes the importance of understanding and controlling the critical quality attributes, which is called as CQAs, and also the critical process parameters, which is CPP. So PAT and QBDs are being kind of integrated into our day-to-day manufacturing processes. Not even the manufacturing, but also when the process is being developed in the R&D scale. There also we are trying to have a good synergy of these new technologies, and that's where that companies are trying to overcome or circumvent the challenges which they face during the manufacturing scale-ups. Now coming to the emerging career options. So this is all about the biosimilars, how a biosimilar drug travel from the very start phase to the end phase of the entire life cycle. As you'd have seen that challenges are plenty, but that's where actually the real fun is also, because of once you get challenges, you try to get a chance to learn the things and try to understand how to